What's up guys and welcome to FPL. Today I'm your host JNO. Welcome to the channel and welcome to how to play FPL but also how to play fantasy football. Now hopefully what this video will do is help you set yourselves up for success and to understand the fantasy football game and the FPL game so that you can top your mini leagues and get the highest overall rank possible. But before we get into the video, if you are looking for a channel that can help you through the Fantasy Premier League season, then this is the channel for you. Consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell so you get all of my videos as soon as they're released, and also you can join in on our live sessions where we discuss each game week and try and make sure we all get the best points possible. So FPL and fantasy football, if you're new to the game, and I know a lot of you aren't on this channel, but hopefully we'll be bringing in a bunch of new members of the flock. So if you are new to the game, you usually have a budget to buy 11 to 15 players depending on if it's a squad game or if it is just a normal first 11 game. Generally, this budget will allow a limited amount of premium players, but it does vary depending on which game you are playing. Usually you can only get 2 or 3 of the best players in each position. Usually you can only get 1 or 2 of the best players in each position, but it does depend on which fantasy football game you are playing. On this channel we mainly focus on FPL, but a lot of what we talk about will help you in other games. The FPL game allows you to play 11 players in one game week, but you have a squad of 15, so you have to choose 4 players to be on your bench. Now there is a chip that allows you to play all 15, but you only get to use it once in the entire season. So a lot of this game is about squad management and managing to put the right players in for the right game weeks and leave the players on the bench that aren't going to score any points. If one of your 11 players in that game week plays no minutes at all, then you do get one of your bench players getting brought on to replace the player that hasn't played. You do need to put your bench players in the right order, however, to make sure you get the player you want to coming in for a player that doesn't play. And there are restrictions on your squad and your starting 11. The squad must have 2 goalkeepers, 5 defenders, 5 midfielders and 3 forwards. And the starting 11 must have 1 goalkeeper, 3 defenders, 3 midfielders and 1 forward. So what that means is if you have 3 players in your defence and one of your defenders doesn't play, no matter if you put a midfielder or forward before a defender on your bench, the defender will come in to make sure your starting 11 matches a required formation. And until the game actually kicks off for game week 1, you actually have unlimited transfers, but then transfer rules do come into play. So you can make as many changes as you want into the lead up to the Premier League season, but then restrictions do come in, which we'll get onto next. But before we do that, we are going to look at the point scoring system for the Fantasy Premier League. Now of course the aim is to pick players within the budget to score as many points as possible, but to do that you need to know the point scoring system. Now players do actually score for starting and they do score points for playing more than 60 minutes. It's 1 point for starting and 2 points if they get over 60 minutes. That includes the point they got for starting. But the other ways to score, goals scored of course is a massive thing in fantasy football and the Fantasy Premier League. And goals scored for a goalkeeper and defender is 6 points, for a midfielder it's 5 and for a forward it's 4. And then clean sheets, goalkeepers and defenders get 4 points each and a midfielder gets 1. Apart from those 2, majority of points are pretty uniform across the board. Goalkeepers do however get another way to score points to make them more valuable in the FPL game. Assists get you 3 points no matter what position you play in, and then goalkeepers can also get a point for every 3 shots they save in a game. Penalty save for a goalkeeper also gets some 5 points, and bonus points are awarded in the Fantasy Premier League game depending on the player's performance during the 90 minutes, and that can range from 1 to 3 points. It's ranked, so the best player in the game gets 3 points and the second best 2, and then the third best gets 1 point. And there are ways you can lose points as well, and it's actually a thing to try and pick a squad that scores as few points as possible to see if you can get to the other end of the rankings and be the worst player in the game. A penalty miss gets you -2 points. Every 2 goals conceded by a defender gets you -2. Every 2 goals conceded gets you -1 for goalkeepers and defenders. For yellow cards you get -1. For a red card you get -3. For an own goal you get -2 points. And that covers the majority of points in the game that we need to concern ourselves with. We now look at transfers, which we mentioned earlier, and there are rules to your transfers once the game actually kicks off after game week 1. You have unlimited transfers until then, like I've already said. However, after game week 1 deadline, you are limited to 1 transfer per week. If you do not use that transfer, it can roll over to the next week, but you can only ever roll over one transfer. So if in game week 1 you don't use a transfer, and then in game week 2 you have 2 transfers because you rolled one over and you don't use either of them, in game week 3 you will still only have 2 transfers. You'll lose the one from game week 1 and the one from game week 2 will roll over to game week 3. So you can only have 2 transfers saved up. You can make more transfers if you do wish, but this will come at a cost of -4 points. And that is per transfer. So if you make 3 transfers after any saved transfers, then you will be losing 12 points. And the deadlines for transfers are 1 hour before kickoff of the first game of the game week. That is usually the Saturday morning kickoff, but sometimes you get Friday night games, and then you will get midweek game weeks when we come to Christmas time, New Year's, and near the end of the season. Now we've got all this money, how to use it to build a squad that can get you the most points possible. You want to split your budget to build the most balanced squad possible so you are able to react to things like injuries, suspensions, or rotation. The worst thing is to have used your transfer already, then to find out a player gets injured and there's nothing you can do about it unless you take a -4 because the players on your bench don't start. So it's imperative to have at least players on your bench that start. Now they could be really cheap, they could do nothing for most of the season, but as long as they start they'll be getting you those 1 or 2 points, and every now and again you get a really cheap budget option that can every now and again score some decent points and come in off your bench to make up for someone that has been dropped to the bench by their manager. Below is a rough historic guide to budget allocation. However, last year things turned around where spending more money in midfield probably would have been beneficial than spending as much money as you did on forwards, because there weren't as many standout forward options as there usually are in a season. Now it could return back to normal, or it could be that midfield going forward is the place to spend the most amount of money. However, in goal you usually want to spend around 8.5 to 9.5 million. In defence you want to spend 24 to 27 million. In midfield 38 to 40, and then forwards you want to spend around 26 million to 28 million. But of course players have spent different budget allocations on different positions and still done well, but that is generally what most people will find their teams generally balancing out the books. And then we get onto the wildcard and chips. This isn't in every game, but wildcard is generally a very common theme across fantasy football games. However, in the FPL you get wildcard and you get free chips you can use during the season to try and really boost your point total. The wildcard allows unlimited amount of transfers in a game week with no point deductions, which is huge, especially reacting to certain parts of the season and to making sure you have the best possible squad for certain parts of the season as well, especially when you get into the period where there's double game weeks. A lot of wildcards in the second half of the season are used around that period. And then we also have 2 wildcards to use, the first one having to be used before the 29th of December and the second one is used after that. And then we have the chips that have come into play. 2 of them have been around for a while and 1 was new last year. First off, the 2 that have been around for a while, we have triple captain. Basically your captain gets double points during the game week. When you play this chip, triple captain, your player who is captain gets triple points, and if you use this effectively it can be a massive boost to your fantasy Premier League season. But a lot of the time you will find that you play it and your player doesn't do as well as you were hoping. A lot of people will play triple captain when a player has 2 games in a game week. That is kind of doubling your chance to get some decent points to triple, so that is one way to play triple captain. But you can just look at a fixture and go, you know what, I think this player will do really well, and that can work as well. We then have bench boost as well. This is a chip which when you play, all your players on your bench points also count to your game week total. So it doesn't matter who is on the bench and who isn't, all 15 of your players, their points will go towards your game week score and will go towards your overall rank. Now again, this is usually used during a double game week, so you have 15 players or as many players as possible that have 2 games in a game week, which gives you more chance to get a good amount of points. And then the chip that was new last year, it's called the free hit, and essentially it is a wild card that lasts for 1 game week only. Once you've used it, you can make as many changes as you want, but they will only last for that game week, and then after that game week your team will revert back to the team it was before you played the chip and made your transfers. Now this can be used in what's called a blank game week, where there are teams that aren't playing in the game week because of FA Cup ties, Carling Cup ties and so on and so forth. I'm not even sure it's still called the Carling Cup, but never mind. So that is one option. You can also use it to make the most of a double game week as well, without trying to build a side that isn't focused on the fixtures after that double game week. So that is a new chip that was very popular last year and makes a return this year, and if used correctly can be of great benefit to your side. Anyway guys, that is it for this video, so I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, consider hitting that like button, and if you have enjoyed it and you haven't already, hit that subscribe and notification bell. Also, try and come along to a live session if you do have more questions about FPL. We have a great community, we call it the Flock, and we will all help you out as much as possible during the FPL season and in the lead up to the FPL season. So pop along to a live session where I'll answer your questions live and ask me anything you like, and I'll try and do my best to help you out. Anyway guys, that has been it for this episode. So as always, I've been JNO, this has been FPL Today, and remember, it's all about the game.